into episode 6. Now, if you're like me and you've been following along with the whole Christ Revealed series, you have fallen in love with all of the interviews and the many travels that we've been able to take you on. On today's show, we will have an interview with Dr. Randall Price, also with Father Kelly, and part 2 of the series with Greg Koukl. But right now, let's talk about the interview that you had with Dr. Randall Price.
So Dr. Randall Price is this bigger-than-life character. He sort of reminds me of Indiana Jones, but he's a serious scientist. He's an archaeologist. He dug at Qumran, where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he was the lead archaeologist out there for a while. And we sit in what's referred to as a museum that literally is his private collection of biblical artifacts that he's dug up over the years. So if you want to see history come to life in a very compelling way, watch my interview with Dr. Randall Price. It's extraordinary. Then we talked to Father Kelly. Now, I don't know if Father Kelly drinks a lot of coffee or where he gets his energy from, but I'll tell you one thing, his energy is contagious. He is so excited about what he's doing. And what is he doing? There is a first century synagogue unearthed right next to the Sea of Galilee, which it is certain that Christ would have taught there. Secondly, with Father Kelly, in the middle of this dig where I am with him, they found what is considered maybe the most important archaeological find in the past century, which is the Magdala Stone, or they pronounce it out there Magdala Stone, which is a 3D model basically of the Second Temple. So this is something that is significant from a historical standpoint and an archaeological standpoint. So it's pretty exciting to have Father Kelly take us on a walk, show us what was found, talk about the significance of this, and knowing that you're standing in a place that Christ taught from. It's pretty significant, so you're going to get a lot out of that. I think it will give chills up your spine. And then lastly, we have part 2 of my interview with Greg Koukl. If you saw part 1, you realize that this is an incredible intellectual experience that brings precision and logic to the understanding of the Christian faith. So make sure you engage in that. I really look forward to taking this journey with you through these interviews. Dr. Price, thanks so much for taking time for us today.
Well, it's my pleasure.
So give us a bio sketch on you.
Well, I teach here at Liberty University, and I'm a research professor. I also am curator of our Limited Biblical Museum, which is the setting we're in today. My background is both in teaching biblical studies, Jewish studies, and as an archaeologist. For 10 years, I was director of excavations on the Qumran Plateau, which is the site of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And now I'm involved in what's called Operation Scroll. We're looking through the caves in that area for more Dead Sea Scrolls that were hidden in jars and will help reveal more information about the Bible.
That's got to be exciting to be on the hunt for those things, I'd guess.
Well, it's exciting because it's a kind of unparalleled opportunity. The last 60 years, the politics in the region have prevented people getting to those caves. And I think generally people thought there was really nothing left to find because all of the excitement was in the 40s and 50s. And, you know, like talking about faith in general, many people think there's just nothing to find. It's all been done. And this is a world yet to explore, particularly in the Dead Sea and in other places as well.
Yeah, well, you talk about things to find. I mean, we're in the museum here, and we're surrounded by artifacts, and I have now come to find out this is your personal collection. Is there a sense of how many artifacts are here?
Well, there's about 2,800 artifacts here, collected over a period of 40 years. With the primary purpose of bringing the world of the Bible to the United States so people can see that and see for themselves that the faith that they have is based in history, based in a context of a real place.
Now, was your faith in place before you became an archaeologist and started going out there and collecting these artifacts?
It was. In fact, that's sort of what stimulated me to do this. I and my family moved to Israel. I studied at the Hebrew University. Part of that was studying archaeology. And I just became aware of how, in a sense, shallow my own faith was. I had a sort of a storybook faith. It was traditional. It had been taught to me all my life. And I never had challenged myself to really think, are these things true? And you just assume them. And now I'm in the context, living context of history where all these things actually took place. And I'm beginning to see, if you could take the actual evidence and put it together with the documents that you already knew, how much more that would strengthen your faith.
Well, that's a very interesting characterization, storybook faith. And that is really kind of the chasm that you cross, because now, when you're holding artifacts from the period, and so for people who don't have that experience personally, which is the majority of people, obviously maybe they understand the Old Testament, the New Testament, they've learned from the book, if you will. But when you're actually got your hands in the dirt and you're pulling the stuff away and it starts to corroborate what's in the book, what's the experience of that like, or what does it do to you personally?
I think that, we're more than just one sense. We have many senses. Mm-hmm. And we read, in fact, the New Testament, 1 John 1 tells us things which we have heard with our ears and seen with our eyes, mm-hmm. things which our hands have handled concerning mm-hmm. the word of truth.
Right.
For me, putting my hands in the dirt and pulling out an artifact that hadn't been touched in 2,000 years mm-hmm. that could relate to a certain event that I read about in the Bible is extremely moving mm-hmm. because now my already emotional, spiritual senses are combined with the real objective facts that are in the ground.
Right.
And I had to put that together, the senses that, this really happened. If it really happened, and it really happened to people here, and I'm like those people, mm-hmm. then the faith they had is the kind of faith I should have. Mm-hmm. Not just, I'm living in a world, particularly when I'm down at the Dead Sea, lowest spot on earth, 2 inches of rainfall a year, up to 130 degrees temperature, nothing there, just barren. And people survived there, and they trusted God there. That's where Jesus was tested, Moses was tested, David was tested. You read about all these people living there. And for me, it made me say, when everything is stripped away, can I really survive just by faith alone? Can I really, and I think that's been translated to other parts of my life when I've lost things that I really depended on. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing left except, a basic trust that God cared for me and He had spoken promises to me. Is that enough? And I think that real world experience helped me where I was, to make the leap, as it were, to my own experience.
So it's not only just validating intellectually, but on the spiritual level and the emotional level, it sort of creates a foundation or a confidence there that's maybe beyond what you would have had otherwise.
Oh yeah, well, confidence in one sense that my faith is not placed in objects that come from the ground or in archaeology or in science or anything. My faith is placed in the living God who has spoken, and I have trusted His word, and I've seen in my own experience that trust is valid. On the other hand, those types of evidences, which the Bible itself said I could expect to find. I mean, it was written in a context where this was normal. The people who lived in the Middle East, this is where the story unfolded. They saw these things. If I go there and I see those things, then all of a sudden I enter into that element of the experience. And so in a sense, there's a bit of confirmation. It simply reinforces, let's put it that way, that what I have believed is on a solid foundation. Yeah. So my faith is founded on facts. Right. I already had the faith, but now I have the facts that support it. And so in one sense, it holds it up a little firmer.
Yeah, so this is where it starts to get, I think, interesting, because you've spent a lifetime, collecting this evidence, right? So there's certainly a history that's written in the Bible. There's a lot of, scholarly work around the corroboration relative to that. And then there's the archaeological work, that also starts to validate. And a lot of this has come in, relatively speaking, recent times. And you start to see that there's the level of corroboration is pretty high. So when this evidence starts to stack up, from your scientific standpoint, and I also know that you have a PhD in philosophy from the University of Texas in Austin. So what conclusions have you drawn as far as relative to evidence and proof and how it ties into all of this?
Well, I think everyone comes with their presuppositions. While I believe in an objective faith, that is faith in an object outside of myself, I bring myself to that object. And it's sum total of my years being in a home with parents or not with parents, being subjected to good people, bad people, seeing maybe religious people who have gone astray or gone wrong or treated me wrong. I mean, all these things I bring to it. And so there is a reluctance many times to accept evidence, which is clearly there. The evidence is there. We interpret it differently based on those presuppositions.
Right.
I mean, everyone lives by faith. You get up in the morning because the sun has risen and you expect it to rise. You never question that.
Right.
You get in your car and you turn on the engine expecting it to start as it always does.
Right.
You have no idea about the mechanics of the engine or anything else. You just take that by faith. You may be driving to the doctor because you need an appointment, and he's going to look at you and write out a prescription for you. And basically, you can't even read that. You don't even ask him his credentials that are hanging on the wall. How many people have you successfully treated? You just take it all by faith and you do it. Then you go to a pharmacist and you take that piece of paper and you hand it to him because you can't even read it, and you expect him not to poison you to death, but to give you something that will actually help you.
Right.
We do that in our normal life all the time. That's simply faith.
Yep.
Because we're predisposed to accept these things
Right.
as normal in our culture because it's part of what we've always accepted.
Right.
I think when we come to questions of faith, who is Jesus? What is his claim? What does he ask of us? How does someone have a personal relationship with him, which is what he does ask of us? And, what's the evidence for that? We're going to bring those presuppositions. But many times, our presuppositions are forced to change by that evidence. In other words, people may have a huge presupposition against the supernatural. Okay, I don't believe it, can't happen. But then they meet people who are walking miracles,
Right.
which things have happened, and that challenges those presuppositions. So they begin to move a little closer toward, I would think, more of an objective understanding of the evidence itself.
That's it for this particular interview. Thanks for joining me. Really excited to take this ongoing journey with you as we keep bringing more content. If you haven't already, you really should subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of phenomenal content coming down the road into the future that you'll want to know about. Leave a comment down here. I think people would love to hear from you, and then you can hear from them too. If you liked it, go ahead and give a like. It only takes half a second, and share this with people that you care about. The world needs more light in it right now. So thanks for being with me. Hope to connect with you again soon.